All right, welcome back. So in this episode, we're going to talk about finishing up a perfect square trinomial. I know that the left expression is a perfect square trinomial of x plus 3, and that's going to be squared, and that's going to be equal to 1. All right, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides, so that's going to give me x plus 3 is equal to plus or minus 1. So that's going to give me x is equal to 1 minus 3, or x is equal to negative 1 minus 3. So that's going to give me x is equal to negative 4 or negative 2. Okay, so hopefully by now you're getting a good idea of how to do and work with perfect square trinomials and solving them. Okay, now we're going to talk about completing the square specifically when, just like when we first talked about factoring, specifically when our a term is equal to 1, okay? So let's say, for example, we're going to what the goal here is, we want to take x, we want to rewrite any quadratic that we're given. Let's say I give you the quadratic in terms of, since the a term is 1, I'm just going to write it x squared plus bx plus c, and that's equal to 0. We want to rewrite that quadratic as x squared plus bx, and that's going to be equal to negative c. We want to move that c over to the other side. We also specifically, and let me not say that. I was going to say something, and then I'm catching myself there that I don't think that would make it confusing. So, so let's say I have a quadratic, and I give you x squared plus 8x plus 7, and that's equal to 0. Now, I know that there's other ways to solve this. I know that there are other ways to solve this. But right now, I want to talk about that as a special way because certain quadratics are not solvable by factoring normal methods. You have to solve them by completing the square, which completing the square will eventually lead you, well, in the next lesson, will lead you to the quadratic formula. And that's the final method to factoring. So, now, I'm going to take this, the first time I'm going to do, as I said here on the left side, I want to rewrite my standard form in the form that I'm given. So I want to move that 7 over to the right side. So I'm going to rewrite this and say x squared plus 8x, and that's going to be equal to negative 7. Okay, now I want to take, I've rewritten it. I then want to take the b term and divide it by 2. Okay, and then we're going to square it. So you're going to take b, divide it by 2, and then we're going to square it, and then we're going to add to both sides. And that creates a perfect square trinomial. So once we've created that perfect square trinomial, then we can factor both sides. So if you watch, so if I take this b term, 8, all right, and I divide that by 2, and then I square it, all right, so I'm going to say x squared plus, well, 8, and I'm still going to have the 8x there, all right, that 8x is going to be there, but now I'm going to add, let me write it this way, hold on. So I'm going to take my b term here, my b is equal to 8. So I'm going to divide that by 2, and then I'm going to square it. Well, 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 squared is going to give me 16. So now I'm going to add 16 to both sides. So I'm going to take my original, so that x squared plus 8x, and that's equal to negative 7. And now to both sides, I'm going to add 16. Okay? Now, if you notice, 16 is a perfect square number. 16 is a perfect square of 4 squared. Oh, look at that. And 4 plus 4 will give me 8. So I know that this left side is a perfect square of x, or perfect square trinomial of the perfect square binomial of x plus 4, and that's squared. All right, that's going to be equal to, well, negative 7 plus 16 is going to give me, negative 7 plus 16 is going to give me 9. So that's positive. Oh, look, just like when we were talking about in the next video, oh, look, I know that 9 is a perfect square of 3. And I know that when I take the square root of both sides, This is going to give me x plus 4 is equal to plus or minus 3. Just like we did before, I'm going to subtract 4 to both sides. This is going to give me x is equal to 3 minus 4, or x is equal to negative 3 minus 4. So that's going to give me x is equal to negative 1, or x is equal to negative 7. Now, thinking about up here, if you talk about this and the factored form of this, you know, if I were to take this in normal methods, you say x squared plus 8x plus 7 is equal to 0. You know that this is x plus 7 times x plus 1 is equal to 0. That would give you x is equal to negative 1 and 7. So this one, really, if you were talking about in terms of which method would be better to use, the factoring, that would be the best method to use, not completing the square. But you have to learn how to complete the square on the easier ones before you get to the harder ones, huh? Yeah, right? And one of the videos later on, one of the other lessons too, we're going to go on talking about, well, how do I know which method to use, because we're using all these different methods, and I don't know when to use which. And each method is important to use and know how to understand